Many years before Nat King Cole became famous as a record and film star, singing his big hits like Pretend, Mona Lisa, Unforgettable, and Ramblin' Rose, his final hit, the King Cole Trio was known as an LA group that supplied music for transcription services. Before radio had a regular, practice of playing singles or records, most of radio was live. Your parents can probably tell you about live radio dramas such as The War of the Worlds and things like that. Before television, everybody tuned into the radio to listen to serial dramas, comedies, and they used pre-recorded music in between these programs in the same way we might hear commercials now. They probably had commercials then. And the King Cole Trio, which was primarily Nat King Cole, Oscar Moore on guitar, and a couple different bassists, became very famous throughout LA and really throughout the country for creating many dozens, hundreds of transcription disc singles for a variety of labels. And Resonance, which has put out so many great reissues, has just knocked it out of the park with this 10 LP box set, the Nat King Cole Trio Hittin' the Ramp. The sound quality of these 10 discs is uniformly superb. Not all Resonance records, or anybody's reissues for that matter, sound great, because many of them are taken from radio boards or live concert boards, when who knows what the quality of the original recording gear was. So you very often get, in my opinion, such as the recent Wes Montgomery records from Resonance, that are just not up to par from an audio standpoint, even though their performances are great. This box set, Hittin' the Ramp, is like just 10 stars, both for the audio and the performances. And you hear so many different things in these performances. To my ear, you hear the whole beginning of the jive cat, zoot suit, bebop talking post big band musicians that later morphed into the beatnik movement of the late 50s and early 60s. You can hear that language in some of the lyrics in the King Cole Trio. Throughout most of these, you're hearing harmony singing, with Nat King Cole leading, of course, but they're doing harmony singing sort of, I put it, in the way of like the Mills Brothers. You also had the Boswell sisters in the 40s. Close harmony singing was extremely popular back then. And these guys were just amazing musicians. Some of the arrangements you hear on these 10 LP sets are just dazzling. I mean, some very complex stuff. The Cole Trio was also popular because they could adapt anything. Country music, Broadway standards, classical music, holiday favorites, with a real flair. And this music swings really hard. It's primarily piano, vocals, bass, and guitar. But there are some instances where the trio is backing up other musicians, such as vocalist or Nat King Cole's brother, Eddie Cole. The pressings are fantastic. Each one comes in its own, polyethylene sleeve. Each jacket is a gatefold, 2 LPs per gatefold LP in a very nice box. You have liner notes by Will Friedwald, as well as interviews with Johnny Mathis and Tony Bennett. Those are less unique to me. But the main thing is this music is really exciting and really fun and swings really hard. And before the jazz trio was considered a firm thing of piano, bass, and drums, this sort of alludes to the different lineups that could consist of a jazz trio. Back then you also had Slim Gaillard and other people who weren't necessarily piano players that had, jazz trios. This is the 38 to 1943, when all these were recorded, is the height of the big band era. World War II, big band era. World War II closed in 1945, I believe, 44, and the big bands have sort of collapsed by the late 40s. So this is sort of during that era, in a very kind of, practical, nifty, ready to rumble, adept, ready to travel trio ensemble. And you can hear the seeds of where King Cole came from. But if you don't know these at all, and you just think of Nat King Cole as this friendly, uncle-type figure. I remember when I was a kid, I saw him in Cat Ballou. He was playing banjo, singing Cat Ballou, with this other, I forgot who the other guy was. but he was famous for singing these very beautiful songs, and very little was made of his piano playing, but he was a major influence on George Shearing, Oscar Peterson, probably Tete Montalou, all these players who gained prominence in the 60s, because Nat King Cole was such an amazing player. Even when he was 13 years old in his hometown, I think he grew up in Chicago, he was already well known for leading a band, and he was really a brilliant musical genius. And this box set pays proper respect to him. And the LPs, I don't know about the CDs, but the LPs just sound fantastic. There's a little bit of slight background hiss, but it's really not noticeable when you consider these came from 16-inch transcription discs, which were probably recorded direct to disc. I imagine they copied them in some way in a typical stamper mode. When you consider how old these are, the sound quality is just incredible. So 5 big fat thumbs up for Nat King Cole, Hittin' the Ramp, Resonance Records, HLP 9042.